Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is May the 2nd, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 1441 on the ancient sun calendar and 2021 on the ancient Greco-Roman calendar. First, let me say that on May 1st, that was, we are actually still celebrating the day that is halfway between the solstices, the spring equinox and summer solstice. So that's what May 1st is. And for that, we are grateful. Also, we have added 2 companies to our list of companies on the Moroccan American Exchange, to which we are all the heirs. And when we add these companies again, and we have to keep reiterating this so that there's no confusion, and there has not been any, and I'm grateful for that. We've added 2 companies in red in all lowercase letters to the list of companies that we are the heirs to. One of those companies, which encompasses really kind of all the rest, everything that we ever would have missed, and we wouldn't have missed any. We haven't missed any. But the New York Stock Exchange in red in all lowercase letters has been added to our list of companies that we are the heirs to, as well as the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We've added that company as well to the list of companies that we are the heirs to in red in all lowercase letters, and all of its agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof of the sovereign New York Stock Exchange, which is what we started. And you know, we've all heard about the New York Stock Exchange, the corporate one, which is not what we're talking about. But did it ever occur? I mean, I thought about it and I was like, I never really thought about that. Why it is that the stock exchange that had all of these companies all over the earth listed there on it, why did it start in New York? You know, that's because of the Moors. That's because of the heirs. That's where we started doing commerce. That's where our ancient commerce it started there and went all around the earth. And so the hybrids in black ink and capital letters they hypothecated that and pretended to be us. And now we're taking everything, all of the resources that belong to us. They never left our possession. We just needed to competently claim them and not try to claim something that's of the dead. Okay, so the New York Stock Exchange, I still am doing further research on just how many other sovereign companies our ancestors had listed on their stock exchange. And if you look back in our history, our ancestors did the same thing that we're doing. They started doing their commerce by exchanging documents in the companies that they had. That's where all of those documents like bills of exchange and it's actually bills for exchange, not of exchange, but for exchange in red and all, and it can be a bill of exchange in red and all lowercase letters. But our ancestors did that, and those are, but they were credits that they were exchanging and not debt, because there's no such thing as debt with us. So we're excited about that because it kind of encompasses everything. We've increased our sovereign inheritance exponentially just by the proper claiming and listing of those two sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine companies and resources. All of the resources that have to do with the sovereign New York Stock Exchange in red in all lowercase letters, and not that black monster in all capital letters, because we're not doing capitalism. That's the one that we're the heirs to. We're the heirs to the real one, and not that dead fake one. And all of the companies that were listed on it as well, they come with that. So I'm excited about that. And then also, if you have not received your sovereign inheritance and investment packet by email, please send an email to thegovernment@gmail.com, and that's government with an E on the end, with an E on the end. So it's the real government. And request your inheritance and investment packet. And again, we're not having anything to do with fiat. We're doing everything by sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine, gold-backed money, real money, not fake money, to which we are all the heirs. So there should be something on the screen. The letterhead should be on the screen, actually. So let me first get, I wanted to explain the difference between merchant exchange and commercial exchange. Because as we continue to move forward, it makes a difference whether you're doing merchant exchange or whether you're doing commercial exchange. And commercial is spelled with a K, with a, or we just spell it any way that is different from the corporate, which is, you know, we spell it in red in all lowercase letters. Merchant exchange is the heirs who are going to be harvesting and processing, or at least harvesting, the natural resources straight from their natural setting to wherever it's going to go. So it could be going to a factory, it could be going to, you know, any place that the heirs, it can be going to market. But the merchants are those who harvest directly from the land. The commercial moors, the commercial heirs, are the ones who set up a shop to receive what the merchants have. And then they can either change it into something else or and sell it in their merchant shop, in their commercial shop or their retail shop. And we sell retail differently as well, because it means what we want it to mean. Or they can take it as it is from the merchant and put it in the shop. So the commercial heirs set up a little shop somewhere, and they can grow it into, you know, however big, earth-wide, if they want to grow it into earth-wide. But then you start getting into the merchant area when you're when you're bringing in large quantities of one item or any natural item. So that's the difference between the merchant services and the commercial services that the companies that we have offer. And that's when I say we, I mean all of us. Right now, our focus with these companies is the natural resources, getting back to everything natural. So, you know, we may have been doing commerce in a specific way, and that way can continue. We want to merge all of those who are doing commerce right now. We want to start merging that in with the natural products that come from the land, the natural resources that come from the land. And then over time, get to the point where everything that we do is natural. Okay. So that's where we are right now with regard to the difference between commerce and the merchant. Just one moment. And so that's the difference between the two. Let's see. So with regard to getting back to the natural resources, the resources that our ancestors used are all over the land, and that's what we're going to show you now. We have photographs of resources and natural factories and manufacturing and all of that that our ancestors did. And at some point, there was a transition to where everything went to things that are not natural. And the factories and the processing places for the natural resources that our ancestors used, it's almost like they just walked away from it and left it, and no one else could use it. However, the bare bones, which is the most important part, the bare bones of what our ancestors used is the most valuable part, and is still here and still available for us to use it. No one has been. And these photos that I'm about to show you is why they were saying that our estate is abandoned. So we're not so much interested in, even though they're subjects and you know, they have what they have, you know, because we allowed them to come here and do whatever they do. But we want to get back to the things that our ancestors did, because that is actually where our greatness lies. That's where everything that has to do with us, that's what the rest of the world wants. They don't want synthetic things anymore. They want things that are made by us, that are natural, that are going to extend our lives and give us a far better quality of life. And by doing what we're doing, in moving in this direction, we are removing any hints of poverty from our nation and from our land and from our government. There was a time when the hybrids first came here that one of them specifically, I believe his name is, well, I don't remember exactly what his name is, but he's one of the ones who brought the quote-unquote Church of England here. And he said when he first came here and he said, I've gone from coast to coast on this land, and I don't see anyone begging bread. I don't see anyone poor. I don't see anyone in need. Everyone has everything they need, and the grandeur is just, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said that the grandeur is just vast. He didn't see not a single hungry person, a single hungry Moor, because that's who he saw when he got here. All he saw was everyone prospering. And then something took place, and then our ancestors said, okay, we're going to leave this stuff here. And when the heirs get ready to wake up, whatever condition they find it in, they're going to have to fix it up and use it. So what you're going to see is going to be kind of sort of remnants but the bare bones is still there, and we can still do with it what we need to do with it. A lot of it was covered by the mud floods, and you all, if you don't know about the mud floods, do the study on the mud floods that happened here on our land, so that you can see that the majority of what we see on the surface here is nowhere near. This is 0.0001% of our vast estate, maybe, on its biggest day. So the first thing that I want to show you, and this, it's going to look like not much, but whenever you see things that are still standing, they just look a little weather worn, but they've been here since ancient times, really. What you're seeing on the screen right here is a tintic reduction mill. It has to do with silver processing. And our ancestors processed silver and gold and did it in ways that no one could ever even imagine. They made it into things that today you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who could do that. But these are the things that we're going to be looking at, and this is just something to put into your consciousness about how the estate seems like it's abandoned, but it's really not. This is another part of the tintic reduction mill, and it says the silver processing mill lasted only 4 years, which is not true. The hybrids took it over. We abandoned it. The hybrids took it over, and they could only make it last 4 more years. So they start their record keeping from when they took it over. It's built into a hill, so gravity can help reduce sulfides in raw ore. But by 1925, the process was obsolete. That's what they're saying about this process. And again, we're just looking at this so that we will know what to look for in our territory when it comes to, because I have one that I found in this territory that is beautiful. It's just beautiful. But I said that to say this: raw ore is everywhere, and it can be made into silver or gold. Raw ore is everywhere. Most mountains have raw ore in it in some form, whether it be, it depends on the age of the gold that the ore turns into, but it can be flake gold, it can be clusters of gold, or it can be sheet gold. It just depends on the type of ore and the consistency of it and how it's been naturally processed by nature. Okay, so when our prophet said that when the European goes back to Europe, the heirs are going to see mountains of gold. He mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing, he mentioned mountains of gold. He's right about that. We can, with certain chemical processes, we can change ore into gold. So gold is not even an issue. It's not an issue. We just need to get the science together, and that's another reason why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing right now, is to get the more scientists, which you'll get a taste of that today, get the more scientists thinking again and working again and doing what needs to be done again, you know. So let's see. And then this one. This is in Elma, Washington territory, which is here. This is what it looks like right now. It's a nuclear plant, which, you know, whenever they use the word nuclear, know that that's not what they say it means. It's not what they say it means. It means something completely different from what they put on the news. And that 9 times out of 10, something labeled as a nuclear reactor is really, it's a giant power source indeed. And generally, they're sitting on the ley lines that have to do with the electric grid of our planet, of our Earth. Okay. Here is another view of it from back, this was it in 1970s. Okay, and then this is what it looks like today. But again, it's still a natural resource. Justice J. Michael asked a question in the chat, and thank you for that. I sometimes I don't catch all of the questions in the chat, but it says, with the already abundance of gold, why would we need to create it? We don't need to create it. We don't need to, but we could if we needed to. There's so much that we haven't seen yet. And if we did create it, it would not be fool's gold. It would actually be, real when we create it. We're not, but that's a story for another day. The way we do things, and this is, again, that's a good question. What we're doing right now is returning that which we did by hand to its natural state. So when you think about custom-made clothing and custom-made furniture and custom-made food or gourmet food, and the things that are specifically made for each one of us, this is where we're going with all of this. This is why the whole earth cannot wait for us to do this. Because we made the highest quality. We spared no expense when it came to the natural resources that are available to us. And when we made it the best there ever was. And that's what we're going back to now, is making everything the best that it's ever been. And it's real. Everything, because see, the only thing that would make it fool's gold is if we don't use real gold. If we use some lab-created, stuff, some golden-plated stuff, which we don't do. We use real gold for everything. So that's a good question. Everything that we do is handmade, custom-made, specifically made, and we can tailor it to whatever our needs are. We have the best taste in everything. When you talk about those whose palate is refined, is super fine, and when we talk about palates being refined, we're talking about, do you like the finest of everything? Well, the Moors make the finest of everything. Everything is natural. Everything is real. Nothing is synthetic. Nothing is lab created or fake. It's all real. And that's what we're going back to. Okay. And I just wanted to show you some of the places where we did make things, and they are walked away from and abandoned. But I just still wanted to show you that this is what people are talking about when they say we abandoned our vast estate, which we didn't. We're right here. We haven't gone anywhere. We haven't abandoned anything. And in fact, we're, everything that's here, we claim it and then some. Because we're going to use everything that's on our land, we're going to use it. And these are some of the more dilapidated cases, but there are some places that are not like this. They're actually in great, brand new almost, still. And I'll show you one of those here. Republic rubber is what's on the screen. It says collapsed buildings and debris include piles of tires that may have been made on the site. A visit from an exploration society in 2017 found it to be very unsafe and dangerous. All that means is it's not for them, it's for us. Okay, and when we get where we're going, this is what it looked like before the Republic Rubber Company. They don't even use, just one moment. Okay. Yes, Justice Jeremore says, like the fool's gold-plated coins, the Mormons were counterfeiting when they were running to Utah from Pennsylvania. Yes. Yes. See, we have no reason to counterfeit anything. Everything that we use is natural and real and straight from the earth. Okay. This is what the building looked like previous when the hybrids first took it over after we walked away. Okay, and you'll see a banner up there, a banner of Family and Commerce up there. That's the first thing they did, which is the first thing we're doing. We're putting up our flag when we go to these places. Sunflower Ordnance Works in DeSoto, Kansas. It's a power station. It's 9,000 plus acres, and it's a power station. But it's we walked away and said, and I'm not so sure that we walked away, but I know that acceptance of the nom de guerre and that name in black changed a lot for us that we have got to make sure we fix. Because any acceptance of that fraud of black ink and capital letters of any kind moves us from a jurisdiction that we don't want to be. It puts us someplace we don't want to be. Okay? So, question in the chat. C.M. Brown Bay. Let me respond to that. It says, why is your flag not flying on First Avenue and Federal Way? Because we still have the sovereign exchange to do. And that's a choice of mine. I could have had it flying there by now. But I've chosen to, and that's a great question because today we're going to have one of the Moorish real estate scientists to bring forth some information too. And that is what, oh, you didn't like that. Okay. And that is, well, it's an answer to the question. That, and we don't use that kind of language in here either. So, yes, that is, we're going to do everything by the book. And when I say by the book, I mean by our book that we write. And that's why we're doing everything that we're doing is we're writing the book. Reading from our ancestral book and writing it according to how we do it. And not some courts or corporates, and we're the government, we're the law, we're going to do it our way. We're going to properly rebut everything they say, though. And that's the point of all of this. Our industry and our commerce and our merchant exchanges and all of that is going to be, it's lawful rebuttal to all of the fraud and the fakery of corpses and corporations. Islam and Gloria. Yes. We're not afraid. If they have questions, we'll answer the questions. If they have a question during these court actions, because see, they can ask a question during the court action if it's a decent question, and that's by our permission. This is a power plant, and if you'll notice, now let me just point this out. If you'll notice the way they spell ordinance, that's not the way the hybrids spell it. The hybrids spell ordinance O-R-D-I-N-A-N-C-E. Okay, but in this, with this power plant, it's not spelled the way the hybrid spell it. And here is another, let's see. Yeah, there were two of these photos on the initial one, but they don't spell it that way. They spell it the way we would spell it if we wanted to change the spelling. That is the actual name of the power plant because it was something, that's how we did it. Portland cement plant in San Antonio. And we know this is something that had to do with the Moors. This is something we put together. Okay, buildings are occupied only by abandoned equipment. So there's equipment in the buildings. Let me say that. There's equipment in the buildings, and there is resources in there. There's going to be, I've seen where there's books and things in the buildings as well. So there's going to be, we will actually be able to see our own story as we continue uncovering all that belongs to us. And we're not going to get any pushback from anyone. Okay? That's what has been the problem. Things have been copied, digitized, counterfeit, therefore controlled, therefore we must go organic, analog. Yes. Now, some may think, and I thought the same thing at first, but the ancestors said, no, just get started. It might seem like we're going back to the horse and buggy days. It might seem like that, but that's not really what's happening here. Because, yes, we'll have some work to do, but once we get uncovering with our Moorish scientist mind, we're going to update and upgrade everything so quickly that you won't even realize that it was in the condition it was in when we first got it. And again, all we have to do is get started, and the ancestors will do the rest in terms of go ahead and have a way that you want it to look, and we're all going to work together to get it going and all of that, Yes, Justice Jezreel, we're getting back to principle. We have to. There's far greater wealth in this. And when I say wealth, I mean wealth in terms of the principles of us and the things that our heirs inherit, knowing that this is ours and not someone else's, and no one else can take it from us. No one governs it but we do. All Moors govern these resources, etc. Okay? This is what it looked like back in the day. And then here's another one. This is in Detroit territory. Michigama territory is just brimming with resources. Now, this building looks old, but look at what's underneath it. You see that limestone there? Right in here. All of these buildings and stuff are sitting on top of the real resources. So please be aware of that. That every building is sitting on top of a gold mine, essentially. Ancient, yes. Ancient land. Yep. But see, the ancestors, Empress Portia, I see there in the chat, you said they've been battling to purchase this property. It's for the heirs. It's for the heirs. It's for the heirs. And the thing is, we have to see past what it looks like and know that there's something greater there. So we're going to talk about the real estate process we have today on this call. We're just going to get a very basic first-hand look at how that process is going to go. And it's, again, it's nothing we haven't been doing already, but we want to include the Moors who are just now waking up. We have new Moors that are coming and listening and wanting to be a part of it. So we're going to, you know, and then we're going to continue perfecting everything that we do. So let me, believe it or not, Justice Frank, every last one of us, no matter what territory we're in, are sitting on some limestone underneath. And the limestone underneath is actually the rooftop of something going further down. Resources, etc. Let's see. And it talks about here where they were going to do some residential and business space, etc., but that never happened. And then this is what it looked like initially. Imagine what you could do with that. Yes, many miles deep indeed. Imagine what you could do with that if there was no limit to the amount that you could put in. If someone said, okay, you all have 100 million here, do whatever you want to do with this space. Start thinking that way. Because that's where all of this is going. We have to do it. We don't wait for anybody else. We can't wait for anybody else. This is National Acme in Chicago. Now remember, this is these places are here. This is the inside of the building. But look at those columns. So the building is not going anywhere anytime soon. That's why I say the bare bones of these places that our ancestors had, and even though our ancestors walked away from them, they still belong to us because they're allodially titled, and all we have to do is go back through that process of allodial title and all of that, and then get to work producing. You know, this is what it looked like previously. National Acme in Cleveland. This is what it looked like previously. And if you'll notice, a lot of times when they do these types of photos, they're not going to show you any faces up close because you will see the Moors, and they didn't really need you to know that the cat was out of the bag, and it's all about the Moors making sure that they're reclaiming the estate and producing instead of just consuming all the time. And again, this is a 570,000 square foot structure. And they say that it first went up in 1917, but that's not true. It was up long before then, but someone did some remodeling in 1917. Whenever they say, you know, because they always go back to between 1861 and 1933 when they start talking about all of these awesome structures were being built. Who in the world would a horse and buggy brought some columns in like that? Who did that? No horse and buggy did that. And that's all the hybrids had when they came here, horse and buggy. The building's been there for a long time. And now it's ready for us to do what we need to do. This is another one, Portland Cement Plant in LaHunt, Kansas. Yes, Justice Jill, the mud floods have preserved very large portions of our structures. The structures were hidden. Our people just went to sojourn in the inner earth where age and time is not a factor. Islam, Justice Jill, that's really good. I have a photo of something similar to that. the mudflood piece, yes, and the structures, and proof that the people out up here on the surface know already about who we are and what we're doing. Okay. Yes, Justice Frank, all hands on deck furiously. Can you imagine that none of us will go hungry when we got this much work to do and the resources that we have available to us? Because even around all of these places is farmland where we can farm, and then there's vertical farming that you can do in the city. So food is not even going to be an issue. And are we talking about 30 years from now? No. Well, we talk about that too, but we're talking about getting busy as soon as possible, like now, because this is how all of this works. It's our land, and we have work to do to employ ourselves and build from that which is already here. Our land lacks nothing. It has all of the resources and then some, and we haven't even seen all the resources, let me just tell you. We have not by far, but most people know that. Oh, Portland Cement Plant, LaHunt, Texas, listen to this. The Alma Cement Works, the Alma, because you know Al is one of our titles of nobility, opened on Table Mound in 1905, and they say 1905, but it was there long before then, to turn limestone deposits into concrete. That's something that the hybrids was wanting to do, was turn limestone into concrete, because we use limestone, and they wanted to use something that they could make in a laboratory and you know, synthesize. Concrete is a synthetic version of limestone. Okay? And the fact that it's on top of a mound tells you that the hybrids did not come up with that. We did. And then this is Fisher Body Plant in Detroit territory. Detroit territory has so many bare bones resources there. It's just unbelievable. It's 536,000 square feet. It's a 6-story space. And they said it was contaminated in 2004. That just means that it's got some natural stuff floating around that, you know, folks can't. They have to find a way to condemn it so that people will stay away from it until it's time for us to go do what we have to do. Okay? Yes. It's a body plant. So, you know, we were the first ones making conveyances, period. Always have been. And this is what it looked like initially, Fisher Body Plant, Detroit, back in the day. And look how Detroit looks. Look, Detroit looks prosperous, doesn't it? It says the Fisher family made a name for itself along with carriages for horses and automobiles. Now, which is it? Is it automobiles or carriages and horses? In the early 1900s, though the company sold to General Motors in 1926. Okay. It got a brief resurrection with some paint. There was a paint plant in 1990. And again, all that is them saying we need to keep that usable until the heirs wake up, and then they'll wake up and fix everything up and use it like they're supposed to. This is the Dixie Cup plant. The Dixie Cup plant in Pennsylvania. We're the ones who, you know, we did all of this. This is again. There's something wrong with the narrative if they say that these plants were built in the 1918 and 1920 and 1913 and stuff like that. One minute they're saying these were built in, and the next minute they're showing people riding horses and carriages and buggies and stuff down the street that there's something wrong with the narrative. It does not work. Justice Giro put in the chat, the majority of technology we left above ground, they could not use or operate, so they covered them over to hide from the sleepers. Yes, absolutely they did. Absolutely they did, and they just, yeah. So this is a 100,000 square feet, and actually it's 128,000 square feet of offices and 334 apartments. This is what it looked like when the hybrids first got it. When they first got it, that's what it looked like. The Moors had it looking like this. Now, you know, mind you, the Moors had it looking that good. We took great care of our vast estate. But then when it came time for us to go to sleep so that when we woke back up, we would have the most advanced ONA on the earth so that we could excel even further and faster and higher and stronger and more competently. It just kind of went by the wayside because they can't use it. They had to craft their own stuff. And all they did was look at what we did and say, okay, let's make a synthetic version of that. Let's make a fake version of that. Okay. Abandoned distilleries. We used to make alcohol and things like that, but we made it for medicinal purposes. I found out just yesterday that we use oil, the natural oil that comes out of the ground, the black oil that we thought people were putting in their tanks when really they've just been putting synthetic stuff in there. But the black oil, we used to use that for medicinal purposes too. Okay. This is what the distillery looked like when the hybrids walked up on it. Now, does that not look like a Moorish castle? A small castle or something like that? It does. And that's in Kentucky. And then this is Buick City in Flint, Michigan. This is now. This is what it looks like now. Abandoned, sitting there, just sitting in Flint, Michigan, where they're having the supposed water problem. And they're saying that it's been abandoned for 20 years as a trust has tried to fill the vacancies. Okay. Well, we know what that's all about. This is what Buick City looked like back in the day. And they're not going to show you too many faces up close, and the ones they do show, they dot them out and color them up and carry on and lighten them up, make them pale. It's a 400-acre complex made up of 6 factories. General Motors invested, well, what they did was there were several different types of conveyances that were being made. And I'll say this about the conveyances. Islam Justice Jeremiah, I stand corrected. The oil is not black, it is dark oil. Black means pale. Correct. Sorry. So with these conveyances back in the day, there were no capital letters on the conveyances. If you see some photos of the conveyances back in the day, they would have symbols on them and no letters. You would know by the emblem what type of conveyance it was. But they didn't put capital letters on the conveyances like they do on those ones over there, the ones from now. They never had capital letters on them, which got me thinking. You know, start stripping down some stuff, take them capital letters off, you know. And that's just me. I'm a little more radical. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying, you know. So, yes, Islam. And then too, you know, when you read these little vignettes about what happened to these places, look at the numbers. This one, Buick City ultimately shut down in 1999. But it had been there for hundreds of years, and it's still there. Oh, here's the Sunflower Ordinance again, which is a power plant. And that was what it looked like back then as well. And you can see back here, I mean, this is all our stuff, all of it. This one, this is Gasworks Park here at Seattle Territory. It was covered in the mud flood. In the front of this photo, you can see part of the structure. This is part of an ancient structure that's covered. Okay. And this is called Gasworks Park because this is where we process natural gas back in the day. Absolutely, the structure still belongs to us, and I'll tell you how they know. You know how we talk about capital letters and all of that? Well, whenever, there is a pyramid on the grounds as well. This is the pyramid, the mound that's on the grounds at Gasworks Park here at Seattle Territory. This is part of the ancient structure that's covered up under there. And then there's a pyramid, a mound here. Oh man, wait till you see what's at the top of the mound. This is the machinery and the workings. It still works, just so that we're all aware. This stuff still works. It just needs us to go in and use it. And it's sitting on top of a, you know, and it'll be a while before this takes place, but not it won't be that long, because it's something that has to be done, because the temporary quote unquote corporate structures they're not going to last. They're not going to last. So this just needs our attention. But again, this goes way far down underneath the ground. It is sitting on ley lines as well, because we talk about ley lines. And then at the top, when you go up to the top of the pyramid, does anyone know what this is? This, you know how at the beginning of each of our calls we say, yes, it is a serpent mound, Justice Yale. You know, at the beginning of our calls when we say, this is, you know, May the 2nd, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 1441 on the ancient sun calendar. Well, this is a hypothecation of an ancient sun calendar. It's amazing because as soon as I looked at it, even though I had never seen a sun calendar this close before, I knew in my spirit what it was. And then the more I looked at it, it was very easy to read. And I'll show you how that's easy to read. See, they know our science. They put this here. It's sacred geometry, but it's in a hypothecated version. This is all of the signs. That's Taurus the bull. This is the ram. This is Leo the lion. This is the woman that's mentioned in our records, except this is a hypothecated version of her. But I'll just show you a little bit about this. So on those little notches, it describes the traveling of the sun, and when the sun, and here it is, sun enters Aquarius. So January 20th, the sun enters Aquarius. And when you're looking down at this ancient sun calendar, and it's not really ancient, it's hypothecated, but it's a version, it's an accurate version, so to speak. When you're looking down at this calendar, and you look up at sunset, the sun will be directly to the left of these markings. That's how you know that they're accurate. Because wherever the sun is in the sky, it will tell you, if you know what date it is, what the date is, you'll know where the sun is, and that it entered into a certain sign at a particular time. And here, sun enters Aquarius. This is when, and I believe that's from January. The sun entered Aquarius. And if you think about what was going on in your life in January and what was going on with our nation in January, some awesome things were happening. Aquarius is the age of knowing. Okay. And there are plus signs going all the way through it. You see those plus signs? They're adding, not minus signs, plus signs. And then here, sun enters Taurus on the 20th of April, I believe it was, that the sun entered, the 20th of April. So we're in Taurus right now, which is the bull. And it's funny or amazing to me, actually, how as soon as the sun entered Taurus, the bull, we started talking about the stock market. And we brought the stock market, the real one, not the fake one, not the corpse one, not the one that they talk about on CNBC, because that one is not real. That's a corpse. We brought the real one under our sovereign authority. Because they talk about bull markets and bear markets, and everyone wants the bull market. So right at the Taurus, the bull, we did what our ancestors would have us do. More plus signs here. And then this was at the top of the sun calendar. And this is called a divine rose of Rome. That's the divine rose of Rome. What that means, whenever you see roses in because you never hardly ever see roses in what we do yet. But whenever you see roses in anything that has to do with us, it is a symbol that someone wants to be associated with us or joined with us or be a part of us. So, yes, it's Rome in all lowercase letters. In red, the divine rose of Rome. That's where before we came here, we made the agreement that when we got here, we were going to create hybrids and have them to test us into our greatness. So that's where the divine rose of Rome comes into play. There is an agreement, but it's an agreement between us, the heirs, before we came here. And then when we came here, we created subjects. So we didn't sit down at the table with them because they didn't exist before we came here. And the thing is, we've always been here. So the divine rose of Rome. And then this is the beauty of this place here, this resource that we're going to use. At some point, we're going to use it. In its pyramidal structure, if you look to the left, once you're standing on top of the pyramid there, the mound there, right in the center of the sun calendar, and you look to the left, there is this temple. And when you look to the right, there is the Space Needle. So this is our science all over again. Our ancestors looked at that place and planned things out and said, okay, this is where this is going to go. This is what, because the Space Needle and this temple are representations of that which is ours underneath. And it forms a perfect pyramid from Gasworks Park. So I decided to do just a little bit of investigation with regard to that temple, this temple that's right here, just to see what symbology would be there, you know, because again, this is about resources and about all that has to do with us, the heirs, and how we know that the hybrids have known our science the whole time. And I'm only going to give a brief about this because there's so much more we could say about this whole resource piece. And we will be discussing. I went over to that temple, that place over there, this temple, just to look around. And on the front of it, there's a sign that says the renovation of the east facade. Facade means a false face. That's what a facade is, a false face. That means that whatever you're seeing when you're looking at that temple is not the real thing, that they put it there to cover something else. It says the renovation of the east facade and Celtic cross are dedicated to the glory of God by the cathedral foundation of the Diocese of Olympia. So the Pope, yes, in the chat, that's exactly where we're going. Justice Yazarel says in the chat, they use many structures to mark ancient ruins. That's what they're doing. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. All of this. Gasworks Park, these structures that we just showed, all those structures are marking something ancient. So yes, we see the raggedy, you know, factory that needs some repair or whatever, but look at what's under it. There's something under it. That's why I pointed out the limestone. There's something under it we need to see. So when we talk about the Celtic cross, our teachers talk about that Celtic cross and the circle church, quote unquote. But I noticed that they put that Celtic cross up there a month after we leaned the Service Corporation. So actually 2 months after we leaned the Service Corporation. We leaned them in, let me see, September, it was, I believe, August the 3rd of 2018. August the 3rd of 2018. And then a month and a half later, because September, October, yeah, almost 2 months later, they put a Celtic cross. And some people think that there's no correlation or connection between these two, but we know that there is. In the spirit realm, so you may not see it in the natural realm, but in the spirit realm, we have to know what that Celtic cross signifies. Or yes, there's a Theodore. I never say that, but thank you for noticing that. knowing what that means for them. And so this is what that cross looks like. That's the Celtic cross that they're referring to. That's the cross up there on the top that they're referring to. And again, it sits to the left when you're looking out over the water towards downtown Seattle. It's to the left at a perfect angle, and then the Space Needle is that same angle to the right when you're standing on top of the pyramid in the middle of the sun calendar. And then this is the front of the building. And there it is, gigantic. And if you see this door right here, this door is to a chapel. Now, and I meant to do this yesterday, but I'm going to do it now. Because I heard a hybrid say something interesting about chapels. He said that in the Old West, whenever there was a church being built, there was always a chapel next door. That's what he said. So I know that those two are not the same, and that in olden times, or ancient times, chapel is not what we think it is either, or what we've been told. Yep, it's not. A chapel used to be a place where it says to place or bury in a chapel, to turn a ship round in a light breeze when close hauled so that she will lie the same way as before. So of course it has to do with shipping. Yes, astronomical symbol. All the 12 houses with the sun in the middle. Absolutely, absolutely. That is exactly what's going on there. And they even have the same geometry going on in the walkway as you walk up to it. Now, the part that really kind of affirmed some things for me is when I saw this in front of it. Tell me they don't, because, and this is not in a place where Moors are at. This is not in a place where the Moors are at. This is in a mostly hybrid area where the hybrids are occupying. They put that sign up in front because they know that that's them. They know that they are the blacks. They know that. Period. Yes, they are the blacks. And then there's the Space Needle as well, which to me is a huge marker for our ancient structures, etc. And there's downtown Seattle, and I was standing on the mound at that point on the right-hand side of the mound. And then we're talking here about capital letters and lowercase letters. Look at how, and this is the sign going into Gasworks Park. Now tell me they don't know about in capitis dimiutio nolo. Tell me they don't know about it. When you're talking about anything original, any original structure, they're going to put some lowercase letters on it, original tower structures, historic landmarks. See how they capitalized the first letter of all the other words until they got to that which belongs to us? Tower structure. And they called it a tower structure because they know that it goes way far down in the ground, or what we think is the ground. Signs and symbols all day, every day. They know about in capitis, dimiutio, nolo. They know that the living is noted that way, that anything that has to do with the original indigenous sovereigns is noted that way. They know that. They're doing it right there on the sign. But it's only when you know how to read will you even notice that. You have to know how to read and know that these people know. They already know who the Moors are. They know everything about us. They know our science. They know all of that. And they know who created them too. Yes, Empress Gloria, see, I was hoping somebody would pick that up. It has the word hill in lowercase too because it's a mound. They know that. And they can call it a hill if they want to call it a hill, but they better not put it in all capital letters because that's our stuff. Yes. So, Empress Gloria, you probably were sitting on top of a mound the whole time. She said she was born and raised in a community called the Hill. It's on top of something. Everything is. That's the issue. That's the vast estate. Everything is on top of something that belongs to the heirs. This Gasworks Park, I walked around because there's water around it, around a great portion of it. And I walked to the end of the park, and just as big as day, all the way around it is a limestone wall that goes down underneath the water. All the way around it, a limestone wall, and it's thick. So they already know that that's sitting on top, that's ours, all of that. And now what we have to do is, again, yes, Justice, yes, reall. Hill equals mound equals pyramid, all of that. Fire hill, yes, all of that. And mount too, the word mount. Because they talk about Mount Sinai and Mount this, those are mounds. Those are ancient pyramid hills, all of that. The language, our culture is in our language and the way we write it. The culture is in the language and how it is expressed on paper. Those people know to put it in all lowercase letters. And here we are, previously thinking capital letters this and capital. No, not for the heirs. Not for the heirs. Proof right there. But that's not even the only proof. Everywhere you look, there's going to be some proof that we're supposed to be doing everything in all lowercase letters when it comes to the heirs and that which belongs to us. There's the sign right there without my hand in the way. And yes, they put kite with a capital K and hill in all lowercase letters. Original tower structures, that's lowercase. There it is. It is our tower in red ink, yes. So when we put it on an affidavit, we put it in red. The same way they have it noted. Now, I will say this, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. when the treaty talks about conflict between the two, or controversy between the two of us, between us and the foreigners on the land. Whenever there's no more conflict between us, peace is here. Well, the conflict ends when us and them are saying the same thing lawfully based on lawful study. When they're saying what we say, we're saying everything that has to do with us in all lowercase letters. Well, they were doing it the whole time. We just couldn't read. We just couldn't see it. So now, this kind of blows that whole parts of speech thing out of the water, doesn't it? Because they're using all lowercase letters too when it comes to that which belongs to us. They're not thinking about a part of speech. They're saying we can't capitalize that which belongs to the heirs. We can't. That's an abomination. We don't do it. That's everywhere on our land. And I'm seeing them even change street signs and all of that back like they're supposed to be. Almost, not quite. They're taking them out of all caps and just putting where the first letter is capitalized, so it's subject status. And then, you know, we're probably going to end up digging up a whole lot of stuff to uncover that which belongs to us, so those street signs won't really matter at some point. At some point. So, that's, you know, there it is right there. Empress Shade, are you here? In fact, let me take it out of lecture mode. Okay, Empress Shade, are you here? You can star 6 if you're here. Just one moment.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I am here. Islam, everyone, I just wanted to see how to do the sharing when you're ready. Okay.
Let me give just a brief overview of what you're presenting. Empress Shade is a real estate scientist. And so she has gone through and is going through every single document that would accompany a real estate transaction. And we're going to rebut properly everything in those documents. And it's going to take us a little while to get it done, but we'll still be able to do it because as we go through this whole process and the processes that we do, we want to be sure that we don't miss a single beat. And we're not going to miss anything. I already know we're not going to miss anything because we're there already. But I wanted to be sure that we at least get the process started in terms of going through each and every one of those documents, each and every one, so that we can see. So she's done just a brief breakdown that she's going to share with us right now, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the meeting to her. Let me just see where we can do that at. Just one moment. Let me get the presenting over to you. Just one minute. Second, let me see. My computer is moving a little bit slow, but we are getting there. Okay. Empress Shade, let me know if you see the presenter, switch presenter.
Not right now. I don't. Let me see.
Hang on just a second. Let me.
Okay, it looks like it's trying to come up. It's something. Hold on.
Okay.
Yep, it says it now.
Okay. I yield the floor. Oh, okay. And by the way, heirs, we are going to some of the wording in here has not been changed yet. So when you see words like what's that word that we were going to change?
Approval.
Oh, approval. Yeah. Moors don't need approval. They don't need approval. We need approval from the Moors to service them, to assist. So whenever you see the word approval in this presentment, it's going to be changed, and we already discussed how that change is going to happen. And so don't let any of this. This is just a rough draft of where we're going. But we want you to know that the Moorish scientists are looking very carefully at everything that we roll out with regard to the Moroccan American exchange and any of the things that we're doing. We're going to have experts who have done it before, and then they're going to marry it or matrimony it with everything that's sovereign. So we're scrubbing all of that corporate stuff clean, and we're starting fresh with a process here where the real estate is concerned. And that's, again, the answer to the question that the hybrid asked initially about the building on First Avenue. We want to do a competent exchange on the public record where real estate is concerned, so that there's no question that the Moors, we're not leaving anything out. We're going to address every single thing that has to do with allodial sovereign exchange on the public record. And we're not buying anything because we don't have to buy our own estate, but we do have to properly rebut the fraud that was out there, and that's what this is all about. So, Empress Shade, I yield the floor. Thank you. Can you all see what she has on the screen?
Okay. Let me know if you can see it. I'm sorry, I had to do something right quick. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm trying to see if they can see it on the screen.
Okay.
I can see it. Oh, good. Okay, good. I yield. Sorry.
Okay. But come in whenever you feel the need to come in, because like I stated, and for all the Moors, yes, definitely none of the wording has been corrected. I tried to put something together just so we can have an outline of how this works and what we're trying to get going first, and then we'll go from there. And I just labeled it a Moorish American Divine Sovereign Real Estate Transaction because in the corporate world, it was considered a real estate transaction. And I want to stay with wording that most people would understand as well. Okay? So the first slide, we don't have the title for it, but whatever Moorish business company that we'll have, I just put a Mexam land bank because when we're dealing with real estate, we're going to have to go through some type of avenue in order to do each process. I have departments and branches. Of course, we're going to call it what we need to call it. But if you can see in the first square, I have the real estate department. Okay, and that's going to be dealing definitely with the contracts, and pretty much would be the department to oversee and make sure that everything else in all the other departments are being done, so we can get to the closing table and make sure everything closed properly. Okay. The next box that I have up is the sovereign credit approval department, which is similar to the loan process. Of course, this is not a loan. This is our estate, and so it's not a loan process, but it's going to be similar to that because, me and Light was speaking on this a little bit earlier today, because before we want to make sure that we have all our affidavits and everything lined up as far as our proclamations and declaring that we are Moors and stuff on the public record. Do you want to speak on that right quick?
Yeah, I do. So we're going to change the word from approval to something else. But what it really is we just want to do a checklist to make sure that all the documents are there. The documents that we need in order to provide the service to the heirs, because it's all about service to the heirs. That's really what all of this is about. So it's not an approval process for you all and your credit, because you're the creditors to everything. You're actually assisting us by coming
right
and saying, okay, this is what we want to do. And so we're trying to make sure that everything is done where governing is concerned. We're governing resources. And any of the other, by the time we get through with this process, any other Moors who want to implement this process in your territories, you'll be able to implement it in your territories. But one thing we can assure you of is that everything that we do is going to stay sovereign and stay allodial. It's never going to be corporate. And it's also going to be something that makes it so that there's the least amount of, someone else being able to say, and we're not even worried really about the Moors going back and forth over a specific property. But we want to ensure that as we move forward, we have a governing structure for the resources in place. That to me is the most important thing with all of this is structure, government structure of the resources. Because other than that, if we don't put the government, which we are going to put it in place, we're putting it in place now, but without a government structure, the ancestors are not going to, it's just, they mean for us to do this in a manner that is lawful, peaceful, and orderly. Okay?
Right.
So again, you're not buying anything, and it's not credit approval like with the and see, that's the thing about the hybrid language, is the language was put there to just confuse everything. So we're going to be changing all of this, but I'm grateful that Empress Sade took the time to put this together and go through the documents, and she and I are going to go through and before we implement anything, we're going to put it out so that you all can have whatever, to rip it to shreds if you need to rip it to shreds in terms of analyzing it and making sure that it says what it needs to say in order for you to feel comfortable. Okay? Right. As a whole. So go ahead, Empress.
Yes, I would like to piggyback on what you're saying.
Yeah.
We definitely put approval, but let me say this: is the wording is definitely going to change. But these are all the words that you guys know of so far. So hopefully you can identify with what I have on here, and then know that it will be changed into our sovereign language. But also, just like the Empress said, it's definitely not an approval. However, you do need to have all your documents in place, showing that you have did your proclamation declaring that you are a Moor, because only a Moor can use sovereign credit, and I can't stress that enough. So if you're not a Moor and you're a hybrid and you're on this call thinking that you can do the package and put it together, you're not going to get quote-unquote approved, because you're not part of the bloodline to do this, okay? So on that note, make sure that you did do everything that Light has stated in order to be able to use the sovereign credits, okay? So we're going to move on from there and then go to insurance. And you had the wording for insurance. I didn't put that up. I quickly... Say it one more time for me. Say it one more time.
Oh, okay. Just 1 second. Let me take myself off mute. I think I put myself on mute.
I hear you. I hope everyone else can hear you.
It's indemnis facier. Indemnis facier is that the government insures the property.
Okay.
The government insures the property.
Okay, perfect. Because as far as having the indemnis facier, having that in place, there's normally an insurance department. Normally, in the corporate world, there was the title insurance, and you dealt with them at closing. They made sure that the title and the chain of title was properly in place, and they insured that. So if anyone was to come back later and state, oh, no, this is not the case, I am the quote-unquote owner of whatever property, because this is how it has been done in corporate language, in the corporate world, then the title insurance would be the one to come to, and they would, pay you, compensate you based on the fact of that they guaranteed that the title was going to be clean, okay? So we're going to have the title insurance, and then that insurance, the department also works with making sure that all of the documentation as far as our affidavits and all the laws and everything has been taken into consideration to make sure that everything is there to insure it, to make everything is correct to insure it. I see your mouth opening. Do you have anything to say on that part? Because I see you.
With regard to the insurance, and we're talking it through right now, just so that the heirs can hear what type of study is going into each thing that we do from this point, and we've been doing this type of study the whole time, but we want it to be more in an open forum.
Right.
So where insurance title is concerned, or title, it's not really title insurance as much as it is kind of title insurance. It's making it so that it doesn't go into anything corporate.
Right.
That's really what this is. And then also, if you title it, or when we title the properties, when the Moors title the properties, we're making sure that even if the Moors get up and just walk away from the property because they just found something else, which hopefully Moors won't do that. That's why they will let us know that something has taken place, an exchange has taken place, or they pass it to their heirs or something like that. We want to make sure that we keep a record of who it was passed to next in case there's any questions about that.
That's right.
And that's up to the Moor to let us know that. So this that we're putting in place it looks similar to what was in place before, except we're in control of everything. And when I say we, all Moors, we're in control of the exchange from start to finish. It has nothing to do with corporate, and that's what we want it to. That's the way we want it to stay. It's going to stay that way. We're ensuring that it's going to stay that way.
Right.
Right.
And also with the insurance, also comes property insurance. I just put the insurance department because they could, we're going to have so many hats on. It's going to encompass both, making sure that the title is insured, but also the property. So we'll deal with that another time, but that's another department. Then we also have
just an introduction too.
Just the introduction. That's right. And then there's the appraisal department, so looking at the market value. I'm not going to go deep into that because we're still going to get that in order. Me and Empress Light was just talking a little bit more about that today, but that's one of the departments that that needs to be put in place. The inspection department, you want to make, you want to have an inspection done to make sure to see what all repairs and everything needs to be done. So that is definitely going to be key, so you can know what to do in order to start the work. And I put law department. Normally it would be legal department in corporate world, but we don't do anything legal. So it's law department, because now with the law we have to make sure that all of our affidavits have everything in them that we need as far as the law goes, as far as our sovereign laws and what we have in place, to make sure that everything is lawful. Because like you said, it's doing everything by the book.
Yes, and that is something we don't necessarily need a law department or a law ministry, simply because we're all the law. So
That's
it's
right.
going to be incumbent upon the Moor who is wanting to do the property, the exchange where the property is concerned, and it's also going to be up to us together. So we're going to have to all work together in order to ensure that everything is allodial and sovereign and lawful and all of that. And it's not difficult to do. See, fortunately for us, we've already been doing that work. So we know not to come with documents in black ink and capital letters, that kind of thing. We've been doing the work all along. So, it's going to be a very easy transition to move into property possession in a manner that rebuts, again, everything that those hybrids have been saying. I yield.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad you said that. And we're definitely all going to be doing the work, all going to be doing the study. It's going to be our responsibility to do so, but also to share information, because I'm sure some of these affidavits are going to change over time. It's going to be more information that's going to come about. So our documents I would think it would be living, because it's always going to change to get better. It's always going to change to get better. And then we also have what I would say the surveyor department, just to, measure as far as the land, to see, from the north side to the east side to the west side, so you can know how much is within your particular the corporate world would say parcel, your parcel. So then you'll know what part of the land that you're taking care of, that you're saying that you're taking care of and maintaining. And then I have the building department. The building department is also going to be key to work with the inspection department, because once the inspection is done, the building department can help with, and this is where a lot of Moors that knows about how to do repairs, and that have done the study on that, and whether plumbers and so forth, carpenters and stuff. This is where you guys will come in to, assist with the Moors to make sure that everything is sound and safe. And so forth. So then that's the building department. And then we also have the recording department, and that's just making sure that everything is put on public record. Make sure and keeping the chain of title, as you just expressed. So that way we'll have everything together when it comes to that. And then last but not least, and I didn't say this earlier to you, but I thought about it later, is information preservation department, which is a little bit different than recording department. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that as I move forward, because I only have 6 slides, so I'm going to try to make this rather quickly. But the information department is when we start gathering information on the Moors and what they are doing with a particular property. We may want to have that, for the lack of better words, I don't know if I would say almost like a yellow pages. So if a Moor is demonstrating on a particular property and it's not their domicile, maybe it's a commercial property that they're doing their demonstration, and they know that they're a mechanic, okay, and they're a mechanic in Georgia, then we can say, oh, well, we know of a mechanic that's a Moor that's in Georgia, so people can take their vessels whenever they're need to get back and forth to wherever they need to be. If it needs repairs, they know, or I know about this mechanic in Georgia, or I know about this plumber in Washington.
Fortunately, Empress, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but fortunately, there are many. There are, like, I know of specifically like maybe 4 Moorish directories that are out there right now, at least 4 that are, and 2 of them are very detailed.
Oh, good.
So
good.
So that piece is coming together. Good. All we have to do is just connect with them.
Connect with them, yeah, because because we're going to be getting the Moors are going to come in, do their demonstrations, and start doing the care and maintenance over a property. And once they have it in place, we can give that information, like you said, maybe to the directories, and tell them, hey, we have some other Moors that are doing this, and then those directories will grow, so we can be able to link with each other more in our areas. Okay. And
also, can we call it ministry instead of department?
Oh, okay. Let's do that.
And then the ones who are the merchants and the commercial Moors.
You know what?
Yes, Islam. Thank you. The Moors who are going to be doing the fixing and the building, the masons, the masons, they have to accept sovereign credits for the work. And then again, now remember, and this is another thing. This is where the AMAX is going to come in at, is you're not going to have to worry about where to get supplies and things like that, because everything is going to come straight off the land.
That's right.
From the land. So it's not like you have to go down to Walmart and use fiat to get what you need. You're not going to have to do it that way. It's going to be, we're getting everything from our own sovereign land. And, you know, we'll be able to eat off the land. We'll be able to work off of it. We'll be able to live off the land. Or on the land, and all of that. So we're not going to, putting the gold back sovereign process in place, it's already in place. All we have to do is use it and agree among one another to use it. So the merchants and the Moorish retailers have to agree to use it as well, and then they have access to all that the land has to offer. There's far more available on the land than there is at Walmart and all these other places. There's far more, and it's so much higher quality. It's so much better. So I just wanted to put that in there. Islam,
Empress. That was great. I'm glad you did. And I'm gonna move on to 3. Like I said, I only have 6 slides. This is going to grow. You know, as we get into, because we're just going to do piece by piece, because as you can see from the different ministries that we have, each one, it has its own documentation, which is going to be our affidavits that we're going to have to, you know, get together. It's not going to be as much as the hybrids use, because as me and Empress Light was stating, a lot of this is going to be able to be combined and already has been taken care of. We're just doing it like as a checklist of everything that we need to make sure that we have a complete file. We need a complete file, okay, for our records. Okay, so now we're moving on to 3. Okay, now slide 3, again, it's not approval, but you have to be a Moor to use it. So I have sovereign credit approval process, and it's similar to the loan process in the way that you look at it, but it's not a loan, okay? And the first step of any real estate transaction is, with the corporate fiction, was the loan approval process. And in our sovereign process, we must make sure that that's the first step before demonstrating, which would be, if anyone remembers, when being in that corporate system, if anyone purchased anything, especially when it comes to domiciles, you had to go get a pre-approval. You had to get a pre-approval first. You got a pre-approval letter, and we're going to get into that the criteria a little bit later. But one of the main things you had to do was you had to be able to demonstrate that you were credit worthy to even get the loan, right? Well, for us, you have to demonstrate that you are a Moor to use sovereign credit.
Yes.
So you have to be,
and that your documents are the right, that the document. So it's more so approval of the documents, and that just making sure that the bloodline and birthright is in place. It has to be in place.
Right. Right. And then I put, again, for our sovereign process, it would not be any loans, as we are already the heirs to the estate, and we're tied, like you stated, by treaty and also our ancient ancestral bloodline. And the next is the criteria. We're going to go into that a little bit. For our process, it definitely will be different than the corporate fiction, so we're not really concerned with that. Again, it's just a checklist. However, all steps must be completed in our process as well when we demonstrate. Next, I put the purpose of the purpose of the land. Now, this is going to be key, going back to what me and you were just talking about as far as gathering the information for the Moors, because if we can get some information on what they're doing, if it's a domicile, then they may not be using it for much, but if it is a mechanic shop, or they're going to be using it to grow agriculture and stuff like that, that would be useful, because that ties back to going back to the directories. And so we can be able to access each other and know each other's science and work with each other, okay? So the purpose of the land would be key for that, and to be cared for, and it's like we said, it's not to be sold, because it's not a loan, it's not being sold. So those and documents are important.
Accounting and accountability for resource. And then proper claim. And when we say proper claim, we all have claim to all land and all natural resources. But the Moors, and I stated this previously, when you do a sovereign exchange with regard to a gold-backed sovereign exchange for where real estate is concerned, then that just means you're just saying, I have eminent dominion here. At this, at this domicile, or on this part of the land, this part of our vast estate. Islam.
Right. Yep. And the last one was like all to the transactions when we're doing, the closing process.
Oh, go eat your bag of pork.
We put to go to like a Mexum land bank. However, that title may change. It may be different. I just use that so we'll know exactly what we're talking about, because right now, when dealing with the real estate department and all the ministry and all the different ministries, is just going to be going right now through just the one moorishe business right now, so we can make sure that everything is done properly to make sure we close. Okay, so number 4, we have sovereign credit pre-approval. Now the pre-approval is different than approval. Okay, if you can see to the left side, that's the corporate fiction. This is the stuff that was needed: ID, your SSN card, credit report, application, 3 months bank statements, 2 months of your check stubs, 2 tax returns, and then they verified your employment and proof of funds and stuff like that. That was just on the pre-approval side. That wasn't approval, because you need way more documentation to actually get the approval to close. For our side, of course,
our processes, it's not going to be where you need a whole slew of stuff. But the basic documents the same ones we've been talking about: termination of all corporate contracts, the ID, the name change, judicial proclamation, those things, the declaration of trust, a court command, and a sovereign United States Treasury check, which we all have access to that. Those are the things that are necessary, that take the place of all of this stuff, the black stuff on the left. So we don't do the black stuff on the left, but we want to ensure that the heirs see that we've done the science on whatever it is that needs to be properly rebutted, and then we're matching it point for point. And it's not, and we don't really even have to do it point for point, because that's not valid stuff, but we're going to do it as thoroughly as possible. Because we're the smartest ones on the planet. Everything belongs to us. We must have order and law, and everything must be done peacefully and decently in order. Islam, I guess. Islam.
Now, for this quote-unquote pre-approval, if you look to the left and you look at the corporate fiction on the things that they were doing, this was for them to quote-unquote owner-occupy. Okay, these were for owner-occupied loans that they were getting. Okay, so it's a little different when it came to commercial lending in commercial buildings. It was a little bit more that was entailed. So this is more for domiciles for us. Okay, this is just for domiciles. Now I did put right here moorishe application, and the only reason why I put application, of course, application is probably going to be a different word, is because if we can get the gist of what affidavit, we can get the gist of what you're doing with the purpose. Then once we know the purpose of what you're doing, and then that's how we can do as far as like what you said with the directory, and be able to link with other Moors, because now we know what services that they could provide to our nation, and that's priceless in itself, as more and more Moors demonstrate. So so that would be huge, and and the affidavit also can, will have some of their contact information and stuff. Normally that would be on the application. They would have all the contact information and things to get in contact with that more. Okay, so that's number 4. Moving on to the 5th slide, and we're close to being done for today. I put the approval process because the approval, that would be additional affidavits, it's more entailed. Okay, it's more entailed than just the pre-approval stage, because at this point on the corporate fiction, this is where you would have needed the real estate contract. You actually would need the contract in earnest money. You would have had to have the appraisal, and some of the banks may want you to have surveys, others wouldn't. Inspections, this is where that needed to take place, and if you had any type of attorney at the time that was helping you close at the title company, that's where they will come in. And then they also ask you at this point to make sure, because you're at the end now, you're getting close to closing, to make sure you have property insurance. And for us, of course, we don't do that. So this is where you definitely need to have your indigenous natural divine land title. You're going to need that treasury check. You're going to need our appraisal, our surveys, our inspection, and to make sure that our contracts and stuff are correct and lawful, and maybe have whatever we do to affidavit.
Yeah, we'll all be speaking by affidavit.
Affidavits. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then also, like you said, the indemnis facier for our insurance, and also it's going to be other affidavits, like the eminent domain piece is going to be huge. That's definitely going to need to be done. And then also other affidavits, as Empress Light has stated earlier, which is rebutting the mortgage the mortgage, the deed, or trust, and all those other documents that they had on their corporate recorder of deeds or office. You're going to have to rebut all of that as well. So it's going to be a lot more documentation to kind of wrap up in order to get to our closing.
I'll say this about that. The majority of what I'm seeing here is stuff that we're going to have templates for, so that they can take those documents and look over them and study them and all of that. So the Moors won't have as much, they won't have to, the documents that we've been suggesting that Moors do up to now, the name change, judicial proclamation, termination of corporate contract, declaration of trust, a lien on the social, and a court action of some kind, those would be the additional affidavits. And that's actually going to address the majority of what's there anyway. But then comes in the title, like you have written, you have there, the check, the appraisal, the survey, the inspection. We'll be doing that. Law department approval. So what we're doing here on a bigger scale is making sure that the Moors who do surveys and inspections and all of that and appraisals, make sure that all of our commerce goes to them. Making sure that they can use what we're doing to feed their families, etc. Mm-hmm. And Moors taking care of one another that way. In these processes, only Moors are involved in all of this, where the building, the masonry, and all of that stuff, it's all going to be Moors that reap the benefits of everything that we do. Okay, so again, we'll go back through and make sure that there are no redundancies. This is just a rough draft. It's a rough draft of the process. However, it's a great rough draft. It's a great start. And then Empress Shade and I will go back through and make and add brevity to it, and brevity being pare everything down so that it's not so many documents. And then make it easy and palatable for the Moors to execute if they choose to execute it.
Right.
I yield. Go ahead.
And also, this is just normally what happens before the contract comes in. Normally in the corporate fiction, this is what they would do. You would go through that loan process before you even get to the part of going out there, finding the property and putting a contract on something. Now for us, which I'm going to get into this another time, but me and Empress Light has spoke earlier, it's not like we're going to be doing a real estate contract because there's nothing really being sold. But we stated earlier that it's going to be more like a care and a maintenance. You used the wording earlier. Do you remember exactly what you said? Because it was more like a care and maintenance, meaning you're responsible for taking care of this if it's going to be your domicile.
Eminent dominion of that property, and eminent dominion encompasses the all of that. Taking care of it, making sure that everything is what it should be, contacting the Moorish appraisers and masons and all of that to make sure that, if you need anything, you know how to get in touch with them and not have to call anyone corporate. Because, see, the majority of what we're doing and where we're going is that the corporates won't be able to fix any of the stuff anyway because it's going to be made from natural materials and they're not used to working with natural materials.
Right, right. But also you stated something else earlier, because the key is that all the land belongs to the Moors. All the land belongs to the heirs. However, you're caring for this particular land, so it's like you're kind of contracting with the heirs, the rest of the heirs. Remember, we talked about the trust and the Moorish Republic, federal government, and the consulate, because how can I say this? The heirs are trusting you to do right by the property, by not,
I remember.
Do you remember now? Okay.
Yes, I do. So the agreement to maintain and take care of the property is between the one who has the eminent dominion, which is the Moor who picked the property, and the people who are the Moorish National Republic federal government. So we're all just agreeing with one another that we're going to take care of our land and not let it go downhill and not let things get, because, see, the hybrids, they have some type of an agreement and they slipping. They are really slipping with it. But they have an agreement among each other. That's why whenever we would go into those neighborhoods that were occupied predominantly by hybrids, everybody had their lawn manicured and everybody had their, everything done in a certain way, and they didn't have junk parked on the lawn and all of that kind of stuff. We have that same obligation to the estate and to one another to ensure, because, see, the more we take care of this vast estate together like that and keep our agreements with one another to maintain the vast estate, even our eminent dominion, the higher the value of the estate, period. So we're increasing our own net worth, not net worth, that's not a good word, our own vast estate and the value of it when we take better care of it. And that's going to prompt some responsibility. And some may not feel like they need that part, but we all need it.
Right.
I'll just put it that way. We all need to ensure and to keep our word to one another that we're going to take good care of the vast estate, because in reality, that is an agreement that we made with our ancestors.
Right. it's all, and we have to remember it's all our land. It's all ours. So even if you're taking care of this particular parcel, for any domicile that you have ever domiciled in, okay, eventually you end up moving and going somewhere else. So then that whatever property that you had became someone else's, and you don't want to leave that property in, desperate repair and polluted and things of that nature that, it affects us all. So basically that's all I really want to say about that particular piece right there. And the last.
Let me say this too about that piece. That is what caused us to have a village mentality about one another and about what was going on with one another and making sure we took care of one another, because the whole vast estate has everything to do with us taking care of the estate and of each other. So if we saw someone's lawn getting a little high or, things looking a little overgrown and unkempt, we would go by and Miss Jones, not Miss Jones, but Empress Jones, how are things going? Can we cut this for you? Or something if she's bedridden or she can't do it, for some reason. We took care of each other, and this is going to bring all of that back into the forefront of what we're doing. Is we have us to depend on, so let's depend on one another and let's move forward that way. If I'm a you.
Okay. And like for this last slide, this was only for really commercial, when it came to commercial property, because of course, like if somebody was dealing with restaurants and, like I said, mechanic shops, it may not be their domicile. So this is a place where, you would be providing a service to the other Moors. So in this case, of course, that approval process when you were dealing with the corporate fiction was a little bit different because, yes, they definitely wanted to know the purpose of the loan, the quote-unquote loan. They wanted to know about the business experience or your experience, and they wanted to see what plan did you have. When you're taking over mass amounts of land to do building different things, they wanted to know, were you building a subdivision? You know what I mean? Is it going to be housing on this, or is it going to be commercial property? Is it going to be a strip mall? They wanted to know those things so they can, know what the loan, what they call the loan, was going for. And of course they did ask you for your credit history application, financial statement, because they wanted to know about your assets and your net worth at the time. That's what they wanted to know, and the collateral that was coming in and any cash flow, okay, that you were coming in, any funds that you were bringing in monthly, maybe on different properties and so forth. And then they wanted to know about your outstanding loans or debts. Of course, we don't have any debts and loans like that. And then they wanted you, for your business, to be a PG. Most people would say a PG, but that would be a personal guarantee that you would pay back the loan for the business if your business defaulted, okay? Now, of course, for us, it's going to be, a lot different when dealing with the commercial piece, and we're going to change as we go. And at this point, all the heirs that's on this call and all the heirs that's going to look at this on YouTube, please leave comments. I mean, we want to properly put these documents together, so we need all declared Moors to be a part of this process.
Yeah.
And I had Moorish application, but like you stated, it was Moorish affidavit, but that would be for stating a purpose. And you stated a while ago that we would need to come up with some type of resume.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what they're asking about for the experience.
Well, that's the directory part also.
That's right.
Because we can look at those and see who is it that we can call on for different things that we need because we're all wearing 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 hats. And having a resume would help us in directing more so that we keep, how they used to say, keep it all in the family. Okay. Mm-hmm. Keep. And then they used to talk about us really badly because they said, oh, the black people, quote unquote, the black people don't keep their money in their community, Well, mm-hmm. The Moors do. We want to keep the rollback sovereign credits in our own, among one another.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then they also wanted a business plan, and we need to have a plan in place. If you're going to take over a nice amount of land and you plan on doing some major construction on it, and it would be helpful to have a plan in place, and, because maybe you can link up with some of the other Moors and we can give that, some type of suggestions on things that you can do to make sure that, it's successful. Whatever you're doing, that it's successful. And still some of the same stuff apply, like our indigenous natural divine U.S. Treasury check. Maybe later on, I don't know if this is going to happen, but as the Moors start to take over more and more pieces and do our demonstrations, maybe, I say I have financial statements, not going to be really a financial statement, but you remember when you stated, I would say like the value that you're adding to each of the properties.
Yes.
The more
if you make any improvements to the property, just put it on the public record, or let us know so that we can add that value to it.
Right.
So that if it changes hands, and that's also something in Shade that we can do at the end, because we're going to be doing, if it changes hands again and the Moors let us know it changes hands, we can do another assessment at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They can let us know. So that's something that we can do, if there's a change in it at all, or they can put it on the public record as a change.
Right. Yep. And it also helps with it adds to the estate, but it also helps with your experience. So we can know of all the things that you have done. Like, you might start off with that mechanic shop, but then next thing you know, you might end up owning, a strip mall and or something of that nature. And so that adds to your experience, and we will want to know, because if there's some way that we can help each other and service each other as we all develop and become stronger and more experienced, that would be definitely a beautiful thing. So so I have that in place, and of course we're going to still need our Moorish declaration, and that was just from start. Everybody has to have that just to even do this process. So, and you need to lean the straw man and your Social Security number. All that needs to be done. The court actions need to be done. As you stated previously that when it came to the domicile piece, that you wanted all the heirs to do at least a few court actions before even starting, before even learning the process. So hopefully everyone has done it. If not, hopefully you should be doing it soon. And then lastly would be, of course, that we said if they have personal guarantee on the left, that's what they asked for. But for ours, it's just, affirming that, you're going to be responsible, hopefully maintain and do what you're supposed to do to the domicile for repairs, and but also to help build and add more value to the vast estate, basically, because it's all of ours. It's all of ours. So that's definitely key. And that's it. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, today, so much for that, because we need everyone to know that we all need to be taking a really good look at where we're going and how to get there. And keeping our sovereign status first and foremost. It's up to us to look at those processes and develop what we need to develop among our own, so that it makes it so that all of us can use the resources that we have on our land unencumbered, and not have to worry about whether we forgot something in the process or something like that. The more we have looking at the processes, and the more we put this kind of introduction, because again, this is just a rough draft introduction of what it's going to look like, but we want you to know what we're looking at in order to come up with what we need to come up with. Okay? So Empress Shade and I are going to be working diligently together on making sure that the documents, you know, say allodial and sovereign in red and all lowercase letters, and that we rebut everything that they said and did, including things, because we discussed land patents and all of that, because some of them have land patents out there that they were claiming that had some value or something like that. The thing is, if there are any land patents out there, all the land patents need to do, and this is for all Moors, just so that you know, put the land patent, I don't care if it doesn't say your quote-unquote family name. It doesn't have to say any of that. If there's a land patent that's been done in them corpses and they're claiming some type of interest in the land that belongs to us, by fraud, put that land patent in red in all lowercase letters and rebut that thing, and then, you know, and let that be it. Because see, when you put the land, let's just say, if I saw some land and I wanted to build on it, or I see a domicile, and there's a land patent that the corpses have on that, well, all I have to do is put that land patent in red in all lowercase letters, and I can leave it in the sovereign appellation of whoever it was, because that's one of our ancestors anyway. Land patents are a hypothecation, just like deeds and titles. Deeds are a hypothecation of our sovereign titles. It's fraud. So when we put it in red in all lowercase letters, it's going to put that land patent right back into the hands of the Moors, which is going to mean it belongs to all of us. So that's just a quick, easy something that we can do in order to rebut a land patent properly. Put it in red, put it in all lowercase letters, and then add your name, not your name, but your appellation to it.
Mm-hmm.
Add your appellation to it. Because, see, if it's in the name of one of our or the appellation of one of our ancestors, it automatically belongs to us too. That's the purpose of all of this. It's connecting us to our ancestors in every way possible, including in our exchanges. Islam, how you?
Islam, you know, because I'm glad you stated that, because the next piece after going through the loan process, studying on the corporate side, so we can make sure we do what we need to do on our side. What the next piece is as far as the real estate side and what you need for, you know, what we need to do on that piece. And I'm going to have the documents that me and you discussed on the corporate, so we can go over them and you can you know, share them with the other Moors so they can see them and see what we have to do to change them and stuff like that. So the next time we talk, we'll have that together for them as well.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I
so
yield.
This is basically just, oh man, thank you so much, Ibrahim. This is just to let you know the science that goes into what we're doing so that there's protection for the Moors. This is all about making sure that the heirs are protected competently and sovereignly and allodially, and that we stay out of capitalism and capital, you know, any claims that they may have. Is to look at what they did and then properly rebut it in red in all lowercase letters. And I guarantee you that when we stand on those demonstrations and when we stand in our sovereign status with all those contracts terminated, that we won't have any issues with fake policy enforcers and all of that other stuff coming up. Okay? Justice Theodore, that you put in the chat is absolutely amazing and beautiful. What we'll do is put that in red in all lowercase letters, and any of the Moors can do that. Put that MACN 120 document in red in all lowercase letters. Hold on for just one moment. So with regard to, there's a question that came in to me specifically about, with regard to court actions on corporate persons claiming interest, even in the real estate, you know, and I'm putting that part in, even in the real estate piece. They were asking if we were using the Guantanamo Bay, Cuba sentencing for failure to appear, or are we using 2-week jail? Okay, that's a great question. 2 weeks in jail and a re-education class. So when you're dealing face-to-face with subjects, it's the 2-week re-education piece. When you're talking about corpses and corporations, you send them to Guantanamo Bay. Okay? Corpses and corporations don't come from anybody's womb. That's a paper fictional creation, a creature of the fake fraudulent corporation. Corporations create other corporations. Okay? So know that it's okay to send a corporation to Guantanamo Bay for decapitation or removal from office. It's okay to do that and send them there and leave them there, because that's not a living, breathing being. That's why it's called a court, a corporation. But then when you're talking about the subjects, I did the 2-week re-education piece, and that was part of the question that was sent to me just now. I did the 2-week re-education training class piece because they were standing right there, and we're not trying to cast people into hell and burn them up for the rest of, for all eternity. They're just subjects. All we want is for them to do as commanded, and let that be it. Go ahead, Empress Shade. I want to make sure that Empress Shade, that you get everything in that you need to get in.
Oh, yeah, you know what, I stated to you before, I'm going to look for this land patent so people can see it, because I actually went to, what is that, the Land Bureau? I actually went to them, and they sent me that land patent. I'm still trying to find it from when me and you spoke last on it, but I know I have it because they sent, I believe they sent it, they sent it through the mail. They sent it through the mail, and I think I scanned it. So I'm going to take a look at it, but yeah, we're going to talk about all that next time, and then I'll see whatever documents, like I said, that I could come up with. But I'm done for today, and I thank you for yielding the floor to me a little bit today, so we can speak on some of these matters, because I know a lot of the Moors wanted to know about this information, but we're getting it for all of you guys.
Yes. You know what we have in our hearts when we present this type of information is perfecting of all that we do. We're going to constantly be looking at our processes to perfect them, constantly, and to keep them sovereign and keep them allodial and keep them to where it's in our ancient jurisdiction of our ancestral inherited estate. That's our concern right there, is the safety of the Moors, and making sure that when Moors stand on their documents, that the documents are right there doing what they're supposed to do, which is proper rebuttal to fraudulent, fake, black ink in capital letters. That's the purpose of all of this. So we want to take a look at it, clean it up, and make it sovereign and allodial, and take out any feudal language. That's what Empress Shade and I are going to be working on, is taking out the feudal language, taking out the capital letters, taking out the black ink, and then putting it in brief as possible, but still making sure we cover everything and rebut everything that they previously said. So with that being said, are there any other questions or comments? Now, I know some Moors don't feel like we have to do all of that. They feel like, we're the heirs, and we should just be able to give them one name change and that be it, but that's not how our ancestors set this estate up. They didn't have these hybrids to do all of this stuff that they've been doing for us to just have one document and say, okay, this rebuts all of that. It rebuts it, but we need to be competently rebutting everything, just like we tell them. To properly rebut an affidavit, you must rebut it point for point. Point for point. And theirs is not valid from, it's void ab initio for the living. But then we have to now remember that we got to deal with one another and the other nations, the other indigenous nations of the earth. So we want to be able to properly rebut point for point and put things out there so that there's no confusion and so that peace reigns on this land. And the only way that peace is going to reign is when we put processes in place that are lawful and that keep the law as the forefront and our status as the forefront as well, our nationality here on the land as well. Our courts have to be front and center. The consular courts have to stay front and center, etc. And also our courts with one another staying front and center. With that being said, are there any other questions or comments? We've gone a little long today. We're about 2 hours and a half, but we wanted to bring forth the process and also show some of the resources that are available to us here on the land, and just kind of plant some seeds. That's really what this call today is about, is planting some seeds and then actually working to get everything claimed and done and, you know, properly brought into our possession in our documents. Okay. Okay, if there is nothing further, we will go ahead and stop here, and then those who have appointments, please be sure that that you make them through the government at gmail.com with regard to the Moroccan American Exchange and the companies that you've inherited. Okay, so with that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, master, divine heir.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Islam, grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand
rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Islam.